Hello, hello, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome back to this latest installment of AIDS United and the Melanated Portfolio. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to have our virtual roundtable called The Art of Becoming. And I have two very special guests that I cannot wait to introduce you to. Of course, you know them already, so the introduction will be superfluous at best. However, I do want to go ahead and point out that as we look forward to ending and working towards completion of the HIV epidemic, we have recognized that true progress is a collective community work, that it takes voices, that it takes real stories, that it takes policy and strategy, and of course, it takes funding. All of those things together foster the needs that we have. But beyond that, it takes an intergenerational work. It takes collective wisdom. And so I'm so grateful that we're joined today because we have that collective wisdom, that collective community, and that collective contribution to this really important conversation that we're going to hold today around the art of becoming. So you might know me. I'm your friend, your girl, Dr. Christy Perez, journalist, scholar, policy strategist, statewide manager at Georgia Equality, and founder and executive director of Dream and Justice Project. But the real catch, the real gems and jewels are the two incredible, powerful, passionate, and advocating as heck Black queens that I'm going to introduce you to. So first we have no less than the infamous, the incomparable herself, Hope Giselle. Hope Giselle is beyond many, many, many things, not just beautiful, bold, and intelligent. She is an author, activist, and cultural commentator. A Miami native of both Haitian and Cuban heritage, Hope made history at Alabama State University as the first openly trans woman to earn both a BFA and an MFA while co-founding the campus's first LGBT organization. Holding diversity and inclusion certifications from Harvard and SHRM, Hope is a steadfast advocate for family strength, unconditional love, and open dialogue between parents and children. Then we have our next esteemed guest, Elder Antionettea, also known as Dreddy, Etienne, who is a clergy and chair for the Latinx and co-chair for PWN NYS. An Afro-Caribe Latina advocate who has been on the front lines of the HIV/AIDS movement for over 2 decades, currently serving as health educator and test counselor at Iris House, and Minister of Health and Wellness at Love Alive International Sanctuary of Praise. Elder Etienne has fought tirelessly for women's rights within state and federal correctional systems. Kudos. The Rikers Island Advisory Board and numerous local, national, and international coalitions. Please join me if you are on the other side of your screen and giving a very warm, heartfelt welcome to both of our esteemed panelists, Hope Giselle and Elder Antionettea. Go ahead and drop some hearts in the comments down there. But Hope, Elder Antionettea, how are we today?
So good. So happy to be here.
Wonderful. Elder Antionettea? Elder Antionettea.
Child, this technology has been whooping Elder all morning.
And I feel for Elder Antionettea because it gets me sometimes. So, Elder Antionettea, I was asking.
It's okay. Don't worry about me.
It's so wonderful to have you join us. How are you today?
I'm fine because you guys went out for me. I'm great.
Well, we're glad
you went out for a minute, but then you came back. I was just getting ready to text you.
Oh no! See, we're having those technical difficulties. You know that happens, unfortunately. And of course, I don't know if anybody else has been noticing. There's been some really weird stuff going on with Wi-Fi lately.
Yes.
I've seen all types of conspiracy theories abounding, and I love me a good conspiracy theory. Well, I want to go ahead and dive right in an effort to honor the time of our panelists and, of course, those who are tuning in with us. So I'd like to go ahead and pose you both a question. You know, we're at this intersectional conversation today around services, around care, around reentry. And so we often talk about reentry in terms of institutions, but becoming is a deeply intimate process. Looking back at a moment when you had to redefine who you were to the world, both of you, whether that was leaving an institution or stepping into leadership or any type of period of metamorphosis in your life, what was the hardest part of stepping into that next chapter? And what pulled you through it? Hope, would you like to go first?
I can. I think that I experienced that in real time. I think right now what we're seeing is this resurgence of people saying that they don't necessarily need trans voices as much, or that they're not in a space where they can platform a trans voice, even if they do need it. And so a lot of us, well, I don't want to say a lot of us, I am personally looking to get back into my academic, back into my corporate bag. And while I still have a lot of clients and things, those are easy to get because most of the clients just want to know, proof of your ability to help their business, help their brand, help their HR department, whatever it is that I'm consulting for. Trying to get a 9 to 5 has been difficult. And walking away from opportunities because I'm Hope Giselle while being offered opportunities because I'm Hope Giselle is really difficult. And it's one of those things where I've navigated it by just reminding myself that sometimes working in the stratosphere that I'm trying to help is not going to work for me. And so I need to figure out ways to kind of sort of do the work for the communities that I like, or the communities that I want to make sure are resourced and helped and get everything that they need. Sometimes it requires me to work like 2 doors down versus trying to work immediately in this space, because I usually end up in a position where people are like, Hope, we love you. And also we think that you might be too busy for this job. And it's just like, well, I wouldn't have applied if I was, but okay. All right, cool. And so I think that that's the thing that I've been struggling with, but I've just learned that sometimes instead of trying to change the system or convince people that you're not as busy or you're not as not in need as a person that they might not know, I'm just like, oh, I'll take my talents a little bit further away from the fire so that they can still see you. Say that again, Elder.
She keeps going in and out.
I've learned to take some of my talents like 2 doors down every now and again, just to make sure that I
keep going in and out. I'm so sorry, dear. Hope, I would love to years and the trans community before
okay, so
new
we're
adventures, new connections, new MOU.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. So Elder, I honor you, Hope.
Thank you.
We do honor you, Hope. And I think that you offer a lot of really important insights because to your point that you said, sometimes having to work 2 doors down, I found that to be a very striking phrase. Mm-hmm. But I often find the people that can make the most significant contributions are those that have a bird's eye view, or they're able to take some distance. And I think that's the reason why the offerings that you make are so substantial and everybody notices that. And here's to hoping that you end up in the space that is most fitting for you, where your impact can be felt and it can reverberate the way that it should. We're going to let Elder hop on her other line, I believe, because I think there's some tech issues going on. But what we'll do is we will continue the conversation, Hope, because there's so many great things that I know that can be offered. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of transition into a question that I have specifically for you. I know that the question was meant for both you and the Elder, and when she circles back in, we'll go ahead and pose some of those questions to her. But I've had a chance, and I've read a little bit of your work, and of course, I'm a big fan of your commentary online. You speak powerfully about the bond between parents and children and the necessity of unconditional love. I think a lot of the heart and nuance of your work is around that unconditionality, regardless of the dynamic. But when it comes to parents and children in spaces where systemic harm and stigma try to pull families apart, how can intergenerational family-centered love be weaponized as a tool for political and social liberation?
Well, I think that that's happening now. What we're seeing is this epithet of our older generations all of a sudden being used to sort of push this new agenda, which is, well, this is un-American. This is so new. All of these things are just so difficult to grasp. And I know that what's happening here is that this newer generation, this younger generation has grown up with parents who have trans friends. They've grown up with trans parents themselves. They've seen, the TV shows, they've seen the movies, they've seen what inclusion looks like, what it could possibly look like. And they've seen what it looks like on them, right? They see their friends, they see the diversity in their friend groups, whether it's something that happened by chance or on purpose. That younger generation was starting to go home and do the things that we were saying as Black and brown people to do, which is, you know, like, let's hold grandma accountable at the Thanksgiving table. And that started to happen. And so what I think ended up being the response to that was, we're going to go back, right? We've been focusing on these new kids, and we can't really compete with them because they're too online. They know what's happening. We can't lie to them as easily as we used to be able to because there wasn't as much access to information. Now I think the new class of people who has lost the access to the information are the folks, like, even in this particular situation, we're looking at elder. Technology is not always something that they can grasp right away, right? Even if something as simple as trying to get their mic to turn on the Zoom call can sometimes be really difficult. And I think that they've recognized that. And so they put the news, they put the agenda, they put the talking points where they know older folks are going to be watching, listening, and looking. And that then becomes this rhetoric that is spewed by your grandmother, by your favorite aunts, by your father. And these things then become a conversation of morality and a personal conversation of the relationship that you want to continue to have with this person that is supposed to love you unconditionally, i.e. mom, dad, grandma, whomever, guardian. And so I think that in the midst of all of this, the intergenerational portion of the conversation is super important because it can't be a one-way conversation anymore. I think that when we think of that, we're thinking about learning from our elders. And sometimes it's also about reminding ourselves that we have to lace our elders up because there's things that they don't know that they want to know.
Very true. Thank you for saying that. You know, right, you heard right before this started, my grandmother called me, and that is a difficult thing for me because I never knew my grandmother. We never had a relationship. And so now I'm 35, she's in her 70s. We found each other. I grew up, you know, for those who know my story, homeless and unhoused and things. So there is a lot of things that just are outside of her worldview, you know. And the first conversation we had, she was like, "Can I just call you Chris?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can just call me Chris. It's fine." So, you know, there is, and I think you made a really strong point about the disinformation. They use social media for the disinformation of youth, and they use other consumption staples for the elderly to do that type of disinformation. So thank you for making that point. Elder Antionettea, thank you so much for making it back with us. I have a question for you. I want to kind of circle back, Elder Antionettea, because I know that you were having to get the tech situation situated. So I wanted to give you a chance to answer this question that Hope answered, because I really want to hear your thoughts. The question was about how we often talk about reentry in terms of institutions, but the phrase becoming, because today's episode is called The Art of Becoming, is a deeply intimate process. And I was wondering, looking back at your life, can you tell us about a moment that you had to redefine who you were to the world? And what was the hardest part of stepping into your next chapter? And how did you get through that?
Well, for some of you that may know me, coming out of prison and from the prison to the pulpit, it was a heck of a journey. It was a journey that a lot of those close to me did not believe that I was going to conquer, because of my previous lifestyle as part of a Jamaican posse. The word reentry, you know, it doesn't trigger me, but it makes me feel good because I've gone through that phase. I've came out of prison. Instead of returning to a life that I went forward with what my God said I should do. I didn't find God in prison. I found him on New York. And it's important because while I was in prison, I was a role model. So I have to continue to be a role model on the outside. Sometimes I'm a little upset about it, but then sometimes I'm eager due to the fact that I love teaching the younger folks because of the mistakes that I made as a youth that I didn't have to make. And when I see it in the youth today, I don't barge right in. First of all, I listen. For the youth today, we need to listen to them and to understand some of the struggles that they're going through, or the trauma that they're facing. And that's really important to me. And I've always had very powerful spiritual people in my life that I didn't realize how powerful they were and what they meant to me. And one of them is my bishop today, Bishop Stacy Latimer and all that he has gone through as a positive man for 37, 38 years, and now dealing with stage 4 or 5 cancer and surviving. So, elder of the church in more ways than one, and I listen. I do a lot of listening. And when I'm going to expound or I'm going to give resources or whatever, I make sure that the person is accepting or has thought about accepting the resources instead of just putting it on them. At times we in the clinical field, we just want to help somebody and we just want to tell them and say they must do it. Maybe they don't want to do that. And we have to be understanding and leave our biases at the door. That's another thing. We have a lot of biases as older individuals because of our background. I'm a Caribbean Latina background. So I don't have the biases that a lot of my family have because I've traveled all over the world with the work that I've done. So I'm understanding and I listen. That's really important to me to listen. So then I can go forward and maybe not even assist that person, but just listening was good enough. So I'm blessed. I got a great network, even not only from my clergy, but PWN New York State, Sister Love, Dazon, the list goes on. I'm just so blessed. The trans community with King Watson and Destination Tomorrow, I've worked with them over the years. Yeah. So, I'm blessed. I'm just so blessed. Even when I wake up in pain because I got lupus, I'm blessed.
I hope the universe continues to bless you. And, you made a really great point there. I think that a lot of people just want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged. We don't have to have the solutions all the time. We just have to create a space where they can really feel seen and heard. They can be validated. And so I want to just commend you and tell you how much I appreciate that you have made that such a focal part of how you show up. It is definitely something I'm working on. I'm a much better gabber than I am a listener. But we have a couple of things in common. I did time myself. I did a little over a decade, and soy caribeña también. Soy afro-latina también. Entonces,
¡ay, Dios mío, hermana!
So wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to go ahead and follow up with one more question for you, Elder Etienne. That way I can just have you and Hope question for question. You know what I'm saying? So Elder, you serve as the Minister of Health and Wellness at Love Alive International Sanctuary of Praise. That's a mouthful. While doing radical frontline work
yes, it is.
House and GMHC. Faith spaces have historically had a complex, nuanced, and tumultuous relationship with both HIV advocacy and LGBT communities. So how do you claim your space in the pulpit to preach harm reduction, bodily autonomy, and radical inclusion without compromise? Sermons that are arguably the antithesis of what traditional institutionalized Christianity has stood next to.
Well, I'm blessed, girlfriend. I'm in Harlem. So I had a program that was given to me by OWH, Office of Women's Health, and it was called Leading Ladies. And it gave me the opportunity and my boss at that time, Ingrid Floyd, the executive director of Iris House, to travel tri-state. We were in Jersey. We were in Philadelphia. We were in New York. We were all over. And what we did was we went to the churches and we did a program called Leading Ladies. And from there, that has helped me in my own personal ministry to get people to understand, especially in faith-based organization, that number one, HIV is still here. Number two, all those people, the LGBT community that they used to throw in the closet whenever we got sick, but didn't have a problem with us when we had to cook or redesign a place, for them to also understand that, yes, you may have needed me to do certain things, but now, oh gosh, can't talk. I'm so sorry. My apologies. Let me get rid of this.
Very popular today, Elder, and that's not a problem at all. I know sometimes we get, it's like
Okay, here I am. Yes.
the moment I'm doing
So,
something,
with the churches of Harlem, along with Prince of Steel, we have had great success in getting people to learn about transmission of not only HIV but other STIs, and also deal with the reentry population, which is HIV criminalization and STI criminalization. So I've been blessed to do so. I've been blessed to, they know me, I go and I present. Sometimes I even go to their homes and they'll deal with it, because not everybody today is still comfortable with their nephew or their favorite grandson being gay and then becoming HIV positive. So it's a thin line to walk, but it's not a painful line. I'm going to take that. It's a thin line, but not painful. It's eliminating the fear that our faith-based individuals have regarding infectious diseases. That's it.
Thank you so much. I couldn't have asked for a better answer than that. Thank you. And I want to appreciate you. I want to highlight the fact that you are standing in that gap. We need intellectuals, we need clergy, we need advocates, we need people of influence, of experience, and of sympathy to bridge those gaps. And so you are fulfilling an essential need, a crucial need. And sometimes it doesn't seem, it can be really frustrating, because sometimes I forget that it's not individual contributions. It's those contributions that went before, along with those that are coming right now, and those that come after, that will weave the tapestry of a better world. So I just want you to know how important and how grateful we are for the contributions that you are making. So Hope, I'm back to you, my dear. Back to you. We're going to tap into some of your organizational expertise as a consultant here. My next question for you, Hope, is a crucial component of successful reentry, whether from justice involvement for a person like myself, health crises, or systemic gaps, is economic stability. And that means employment. From an HR and an organizational equity standpoint, what structural changes do employers need to make to build truly supportive workplace environments for re-entering individuals?
So first and foremost, I think that enough people are not talking about syndemic care, right? And syndemic care within the HIV space is where we talk about treating the entire person, so that way, when you are sitting down to do your intake, or when you're sitting down with a new client, you're not just kind of sort of checking off these things that they give you in medical school, or your last class, or your last, sort of coaching session. You're actually thinking about all of the things that led this entire person to be sitting in front of you, receiving care. And whenever I sit down with my consulting clients, I also talk about what that looks like when you are in the hiring process, what it looks like when you are your first 90 days in, being able to, as an employer, as people who are working with marginalized groups of folks, as folks who are working with people who are already coming in economically diverse, right? And usually in the adverse section of that economic diversity, you have to be able to understand that there is a single mom that you've hired, right? And this is a fast-paced work environment that might require a random long night. Rather than going out of the way to hire this single mom that cannot stay past 6 o'clock at the latest because she has to be home for her children, syndemic approaches say that we do need her help and expertise on the team, but maybe that position is not the best position for her. And so while we do want to hire you for this position, if you'd be willing to wait, or if there's a schedule adjustment that comes up later on, midway through the school year, if you and the other co-parent do like 1 year on, 1 year off, if there's something that you can let us know that will give you more availability, please do not hesitate, right? And I think that those are all things that, if we go into our HR processes or our hiring processes, thinking of people as full individuals, one, we would have less people, I think, wasting the time of the client because they would understand the expectation of their job or the SOW. And I think that that's also really important, is to navigate or to know when we're talking about financial barriers. Some of those financial barriers come up because people have to have more than one job these days. Again, syndemic approach, not just to the way that we see clients, but to the way that we're hiring folks. If we're in HR and we're not taking an understanding that this person has more than one job, if we're in HR and we're not taking into consideration that socially, if we are hiring a more flamboyant gay man, or if we're hiring a more a trans woman that does decide that maybe hormones are not her thing, maybe surgeries are not her thing, she doesn't desire to wear hair that's not her own, these things might leave them open to things that are going to get us called, right? And if we're not being realistic about our approach when we hiring these people, if we're not making sure that our HR managers are trained and hired in HR practices, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. Ultimately, we just end up with an open door policy that then becomes a revolving door because we can't keep anyone in because HR is not actively preparing themselves for the things that they can see coming. And our approach to hiring people and embedding them into this space does not include who they are as a full person. It only includes who they are when they're at work, which I don't think is sustainable.
There were so many good points in that. I feel like I got a full plate. Thank you so much. As I was sitting here and you were talking about the revolving door and about how if these issues are not fixed, then HR and companies are going to continue to have what we know are some of the typical issues around like retention, performance, et cetera, right? So I always say, you know me, I'm a prison girl. I love to relate everything back to the carceral complex. I always say that prisons, if we think of them as warehouses and factories, what comes out of prisons are the direct byproduct of the values we have as people. And so if we want, people who are restored and have, contributions in our society and they feel safe and everybody else feels safe and their needs are met, we have to start with the organizational structure in the prisons, what their purpose is, how do we interact with the concept of public safety. And I would argue that marries very well with the criticisms and observations you just made around what I will call the corporate industrial complex. Okay. And I think they need to take that same type of logic. They need to have that responsibility. And I think that we've gotten to a time where corporations and HR complexes have moved away from, as you said, the whole person approach, and they've divested themselves of kind of the moral onus, the moral obligation to make sure that they're sewing back into the fabric of the lives of the people who are there benefiting from. So I want to just say thank you for that. I think that's an amazing point, and that is a protest I will be at. Elder, I'm going to come on back to you. I have a question for you. You have a breadth of experience coming from the carceral background, working in ministry, LGBTQ advocacy, HIV advocacy, and of course, you have the gift of longitude of life. So looking back at when, the time in which you started your work, your radicalization, your contributions to the world, what would you say is the one major victory, the one major thing that of any improvements that have been had that really stands out, that is either not celebrated enough or has been completely overlooked and we failed to celebrate it? But also, what is the one systemic trap that we are still falling into all these years later since you first started your body of work?
The biases between our LGBTQ+1 allies community. The disrespect, the hatred that comes out of our population unnecessarily, where one side think that they're better than the next, or since funding has gone down, people are fighting for funding and deciding who is L and who is G and B and etc. At one point in clinicals in our agencies, we had agencies that fought to retain clients. And today I see the same thing happening. I see, unfortunately, our trans sisters who turn against each other unnecessarily, either for a job or the way they look, or even for a mate. I see our lesbian community backing up and not doing the work that is necessary, but don't have a problem voicing their opinion after it has been done. I see the heterosexual woman that continues to be the number one population that keeps acquiring not only HIV, but STIs. After decades, there got to be a change, but we're not changing. Not good enough, not fast enough for me. But then again, who am I? I know that we've lost respect for each other. Not all of us. Some of us are very supportive of each other and loving. But when it comes to funding, when it even comes to personal relationship, we get vicious. And that's kind of sad. Because my goal is to get my knowledge of 70 plus years, actually 60 plus years of being in this field to another individual so that they can carry the legacy on. It doesn't have to be a family member. It can be, as we call them here, throwaways. It could be a kid from 42nd Street underneath the subway. And they come out and say, ma'am, I want to change my life. Can you help me or whatever? Not even that. Or just someone that I'm speaking to on the subway or down the street or whatever. And it turns around. But that's one thing that we have to do. We have to redevelop unity within our different populations. After we've developed the unity, we need respect. We don't have respect for each other. We don't. Some of us are assisting of each other, and some of us will do it because they said, well, in the long run, I know she's going to make some money and she's not going to forget about me. Nah. If that's the reason you're doing the job, then honey, keep on walking. I've done many a job where I've finished it and they said, well, we thought we were going to have the money, but we don't have the money to pay you. I was a little upset, but I said, okay, Father God is going to change it. And that is my greatest accomplishment, that my God allowed me to wake up and make a decision for the work that I have to do. And the reason why I do it. The reason why I do it, because I've seen too many women in prison die from HIV when they didn't even consider women getting an HIV. Bedford Hills Security Prison, Fort Huachuca, Arizona, Tampa, Hillsborough County Jail. Respect, unity.
Yeah, I think you make a really.
And if you got anything left, throw some love at me. If you got anything left, throw some love at me. I love to be loved. I'm romantic. I'm sexy.
But you know something?
I am happy.
And we love that. You know, we have to go ahead and curate that joy. That was something that actually Hope and I were just talking about Saturday night. That is a lesson that I had to learn the hard way, that joy is also part of the resistance. And it's a lesson that I'm grateful that I learned. I wanna just kind of double tap what you said though, because I do know that we love to cling on to words, like we throw, and I really honestly, I think to me, community now kind of smacks of like a grant writing word now. I like to use like the word tribe, you know, my village, whatever. I do think that unity is probably, you're correct. I think that's the systemic trap. I think in the progression towards privilege that the LGBT community at large has acquired, because we have acquired some degree of privilege, even just to be able to live the way it is, a trans woman having like jobs, having job security, being able to transition, the fact that medical science has advanced so much that we have the potential to end the HIV epidemic, the fact that there are so many queer people getting education and taking positions of government and entering entertainment and becoming public figures and commentators.
Adopting children.
We're in the process of acquiring that privilege, but I think in that pursuit of privilege, we have lost what made us so potent to begin with, and that was our unity. So I think that might be the takeaway, in fact. I am curious though, because you're like me, I'm a Capricorn. So I gave you a problem. I said, tell me about the systemic fail, and you zeroed in and gave us the diagnosis. But I would love to know what you think is something that we have failed to celebrate. What has been something that you see that we have done right, we have gotten right, some victory, some era of progress.
Oh, yeah. But yeah. Oh, definitely. the victory of our trans community now being able to acquire, not the way they were before that man that's not my president is in the house, but how they were able to acquire funding for their transition. That's a victory to me. If the person decides that their body is not what they want it to be, or they don't know, that they are not, like, they're not Antionettea, they're Anthony. Fine. Okay, Anthony, let's do this. It's really important to allow people to be their own person. To unify and assist each other in being who we are. And you said tribe. Normally I have a tribe. I have a tribe of Positive Women Network here in New York. And I always say that they are my sisterins. And all what they go through is important to me because of the work that they do. And all of them are in different areas. But these women continue to do what the village should have been doing. And that's another thing. Where's our villages? Mothers don't have time for the villages, and like you said before, I think it was you that said it, everybody's working 2 jobs, 1, 2, 3 jobs. And everything goes up, but except for your paycheck. It's a little harder to do what you want to do and accomplish what you want to have to accomplish without sacrifice. And at some point in time, you have to decide what you're going to sacrifice.
Ooh,
so
you gave us 2 good gems. Sacrifice. Because it takes both.
Old girl, I'm old. I'm a seasoned dyke.
We love it. We love it. I can't repeat that, but I love that.
Yes, you can.
I can't.
You can. I'm a seasoned dyke. I'm a seasoned spiritual dyke.
They're not gonna cancel me, darling. I'm not getting canceled. They just ate me up for being on Buck Angel's podcast. I'm not getting canceled. So I want to shout out a couple people. Of course, we have Tabitha Gonzalez, who sent the panelists hearts. Thank you so much, Tabitha. We heart you back, and we appreciate you taking some of your time to share with us. We also have a comment from Obey Quez with the Z's. This has been an amazing discourse. I thank you all for this invigorating and scintillating conversation. You better come on with the scintillating conversation. You pulled out your thesaurus for that. That was a good one. Thank you so much, Obey. We really appreciate it. That is something that AIDS United, the Melanated Movement, as well as these panelists all have a deep commitment to. Having conversations that are necessary, easy all the time, 100% no. Conversations that need to be had are often not easy. And so we appreciate you joining us, and we hope that you take more, because we're not done yet. Tabitha, great conversation. Thank you, Tabitha. We appreciate you so much. So let's get back into the groove. Now, as I was reading the bio, I was surprised. I considered myself a real Hope Giselle fangirl, and I knew that you were Haitian. The Cuban part missed me, and I'm so proud to be like, she's Cuban. But I wanted to ask you both, in many Afro-Caribbean and Afro-Latinx cultures, topics around HIV, harm reduction, LGBTQ identity, they do carry very heavy layers of traditional dogma, silence, or generational stigma. How have you used your cultural identity to disrupt those silences? And how do we rebuild, or how do we build re-entry models that honor our cultural traditions, the nuance and complexity of specific Afro-Caribbean and Afro-Latin heritage, without letting old stigmas hold us back?
You talking to me or to Hope?
To both. Well, I'm going to let Hope answer first, and then you. This one is for both of you, because you both have Afro-Caribbean or Afro-Latin heritage, like I do. And it's a very particular nuance in Latin cultures in general. Like, that is the reason why some of the biggest, most terrifying numbers of HIV that we see in the US right now are from people who are undocumented or immigrating here, and there's not health infrastructure in those countries. But even those countries, the conversation just is not had. Yeah. And so this question, Elder, is about how we are having those difficult conversations while sitting in that identity, which allows us to enter the room where we have standing to have these conversations.
You know, the thing about this is that I don't believe that I don't think I've ever really used my platform to specifically advocate for my Afro-Caribbean or Haitian or Afro-Latina. Like, I've always just advocated because I think that it's a people issue. It's not a cultural issue. I think that different cultures have different understandings of it, but I think that widely everybody who has not contracted or come in contact with HIV or AIDS just has an understanding that it is something that they would rather avoid. And for me, rather than trying to focus on one, group of people or the other group of people, or consolidate us into this, like pentagram effect of like, I have 5 points, that's all I have time for. And if you fall outside of these intersections, then I don't have any work for you. A large part of what I want to do is to make sure that everyone knows, white, Black, brown, Cuban, Haitian, Chinese, or indifferent, that this virus does not stop at the color of your skin. It doesn't look at your genomes and go, oh, this is an Asian person. What am I doing here? Like it doesn't stop. And I think that I would be doing myself and my heritage and my cultures a disservice to stop with the information being there. I think that my audience is vast. It's full of people from all over. There are times where I get on and there are people sometimes from Italy or Brazil or Cape Town and Johannesburg. And I just think about the way that I might have made those people feel isolated to learn from me if my messaging was so specific to the Haitian and Cuban population. And rather, I think that a lot of what I do is I make sure that everyone knows that I'm talking to everybody. And while I do think that it could benefit us to have some more culturally targeted events and things, hint, hint, wink, wink, AIDS United, let's do that. Let's have a conversation about it. I think that it's a lot more in this particular season of the regime that we're sitting through. I think it's a lot more beneficial for us to make sure that everyone is getting messages and not just like a conglomerate of smaller ones.
I agree. Thank you so much. And I think that is really important. I don't think that we can separate the work, as you said, because we like to think in demographics, but that's not the reality. It doesn't care about a demographic. It is everybody's issue. So, and I do say that for me personally, there are spaces that I navigate very intentionally to do that work because I know that this is a group that needs not just every group needs the conversation, but it's a group that is uniquely vulnerable to the conversation. And so, like, for example, shout out to the Encuentro conference, which will be in Durham, North Carolina this year, the largest Latin advocacy, LGBTQ and HIV advocacy conference, where yours truly will be a conductora this year. So if you are interested in coming, please come join us. But Elder, I would love to get your thoughts of how your identity as an Afro-Caribe Latina person has given you access to have conversations with a population that has been particularly resistant to entertaining these conversations before. Elder, you're on mute. I want to hear everything you have to say. Nope, you got to stop, Elder.
Sorry about that. Here I go. Listen.
Everything you have to say. You got to start completely over.
I said, I'm with hope. I do not go just for a certain population. I am also background, Ethiopian, Spaniard, Asian, Cuban, Jamaican, Central American. So I'm a mutt. I don't have time to be separating all those different populations. I just invite everybody in there with some rice and peas and some oxtails, and we go from there.
You're every woman.
Reason being, there you go. There you go. And for the places that I go that they may have a problem with my way of dressing, I always bring in humor. You know, I'm AKA Whoopi Goldberg. That's how I feel. I don't have time for all this fear and hatred and all this. We're coming here to learn. We're coming to make you feel better. We're coming here to eliminate the fear you have for your child or your neighbor next door. And we're coming also that why are you upset with the man that owns the bodega? Then you need him because of who he is or who he projects to be. So we don't have time for that. We have time to educate the masses on what is necessary to stop in 2026 the transmission of not just HIV/AIDS, but other STIs. That's what's important. I don't have time for the rest of the stuff. I have time for let's do this. Put together a program. Let's get a piece of bread and a little bit of wine and go forward. You know, that type of stuff. That's what we're going to go and that's how we're going to learn. With the different populations, because I'm in New York, I have worked with, and I speak 7 languages, but I can read and write 11, from the Bangladeshi all the way down. It hasn't been easy, but it's been adventurous and it's been entertaining. And I have been lucky that I have developed relationships with those individuals. Like I said, whether it be in Queens or Staten Island or whatever, I've just been lucky. You know, when I walk in there, I'm able to get their interest. And it's really important that I'm able to get their interest. And what can I say? We just need to unify. I keep going back to unity. Because you know what? When I do a program and stuff, I get that unity. I get a new tribe. And that's important. Because I know that if there's 10 people in the room, but I'm only able to reach 1, I'm good. I'm not worried about the rest. Because that one person is going to take the message on. Even the negatrons, the person that says, oh my God, she's a pastor. Why is she here? Why is she dressed like this? They're going to take that message out. There's something in that message that's going to get them. Not just my clothing, not just who they think that I am, but the message that I am delivering. That's the important part. The message that you bring to the masses.
Wonderful. Thank you. We appreciate you being a messenger. We have a couple more comments that came in that I want to go ahead and I want to shout out. So we have Mahogany Fleeks. Okay, Mahogany. Amazing, well-rounded conversation, ladies. She says, and so thank you so much. We appreciate that. It's so important to have these types of conversations. Then we have another comment from Tabitha Gonzalez, who says, phew, let's go, beloved. And I believe this was in response to you, Elder Antionettea. So Tabitha was really feeling what you were putting down. And then we have another comment from Deidre Johnson, who says, LOL, Elder, hello, my sisters. Hope this is such a rich conversation. So y'all are resonating with the people are getting their life right now. And then we also have from Maxine, that is a French last name. Maxine, forgive me. I think it's Frere. I don't, look, I do Spanish, Italian. I can't do French. Maxine, forgive me.
Her name is Maxine Ferrer, and she's from Bethel, one of the oldest churches in Harlem. Okay, I invited her on. Thank you, Maxine.
And shout out to Bethel, one of the oldest churches in Harlem. We see you. We love you. Thank you so much for being here with us in AIDS United and the Melanated Movement. And then we have Mahogany Tony again. Says great conversation today, ladies. Thank y'all so much. Y'all are filling up our spirits, warming our hearts, and helping to sharpen our purpose. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. All right, we're gonna dive in. We got just the last few questions left, y'all. So, Hope, I really want to get your thought on this. All right, because you do a lot of like commentary and work and policy around systems of harm, right? So when institutions, whether that be prisons, healthcare systems, funding bodies, when they fail marginalized communities, when they fail grassroots organizations, and these same people, the people saving the people, they end up filling this gap. How do we balance doing the urgent work of frontline mutual aid and care without relieving the state of its duty to fund and protect our communities?
Well, I think that we've seen that happen in so many amazing ways. We have personal activists like Elizabeth Booker, Imani B, people who are actually holding law degrees and who are actual lawyers. You have AB who balances her time between both Atlanta and LA. We have Countess Lee and Lene Bani, who are using their platforms as, influencers and people with voices to continue to educate and to advocate and to do, I think to reach millions, if not, hundreds of millions of people on a daily basis about what's happening. So I do believe that we have an infrastructure where we're still able to hold these people accountable while saying, and we still need y'all to do y'all job. Like, we did this amazing thing over here. We were able to give, this money back. Even myself with my recent Not Your Average Girl tour, I was able to give out $6,000 in grant funding. And that's cool. That's awesome. But it does not alleviate each one of those cities that I went to from having to do the job of better serving the larger amount of marginalized communities. Because contrary to popular belief, that was not a trans woman's scholarship. That was a disenfranchised people's scholarship. And the amount of people that showed up to tour and the amount of people that applied for those scholarships shows me that in every city, no matter how big they were, there was a need for people to feel seen. And I think that us doing those things, coming back with the data, coming back with I think essentially according, as it proposes itself to the data of the actual city, coming back with this micro data that says, hey, there's a community of people that is literally a hodgepodge of people that are saying that they need things. And there is a single person that came here to do this. But imagine what would happen if the city stepped in. Imagine what would happen if our mayor stepped in. Imagine what would happen if our school commissioner or our governor stepped in to really, back some of these programs. And we do that simultaneously. It's congratulating ourselves, congratulating our people, saying thank you so much for the community reform that happened here today, while also still reminding the people that we invite, oftentimes the mayor, oftentimes the superintendent, oftentimes, our commissioners or our Senate seat holder, reminding them that, hey, if you like the way that you feel at this event, do your best to do things like this on your own when we're not here. And if you're struggling, there's groups of people that you can talk to. There's people that you can partner with that are already doing this work. And all we would need is your face and your resource to make this happen. And so I do think that while a lot of folks are naturally doing this, for those of you all that weren't, I want you to understand that this is how we get the work done. We're not out here just completely self-funding these things. We are not giving the government or the city or any of our folks that are supposed to be making these things happen a pass. What we are simply saying is sometimes they have to see the necessity, and they have to see also the PR nightmare, unfortunately, potentially unfold in order for them to understand that this is something that they need to get behind. And I think that if more of us start to adapt this and continue to do the community work while also holding them accountable and letting them see the benefit, we'll be in a better place. I won't say like next year, but I'll give it 3 years before we can really be in a good place again.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think of that. I say it quite a bit, actually. There's no point in crying when there's heavy lifting to be done. But if you absolutely feel like you must cry while you lift.
Yes.
That has kind of been the posture that community through experience has learned that we've had to take. And we understand, yes, even though technically there is a responsibility for the state, for government to step in and to make my life better and to meet my needs, etc., we understand that the world is a broken, corrupt, unjust things much of the time. And so despite the weight of that and the fact that it does bring tears, we have buckled down when it matters most in those most integral times to get stuff done, make it happen. And I hope that to your prognostication, I hope that is correct. I'm hoping that within the next 3 years, we do see a reality that is written starkly different. I, unfortunately, am not quite an optimist. If there was ever a prognostication that I would trust in, it would be yours. I'm an old dog. And I don't know. I don't trust these people. I don't trust anything about the system. And I always say, well, we just need to get more people. We need to get better people. But then every time we get some good people, we thought they were good people, and then they turn out not to be good people. And it's like, what am I doing? Anyway.
Cory Booker.
No, you did not.
I'm not going down,
friend. No, you did not. You know what? Hope is right. Can you hear me? Hope is right. Hope we're not waiting for 3 years. We need to change stuff now. We may not be here in 3 years. I know I may not be here in 3 years, but if I am, I'm starting to change now. Going to City Hall, going to their offices here in New York, having somebody pay for me to go to Albany. No, we need to do it now, Hope. We can't wait for 3 years. And we cannot depend on our administration. And we have to be the change. We have to be the change for those that are coming behind us. Because those that we have voted in have disappointed us. And I'm talking from every level, level, from city all the way up to that swamp in Washington, D.C. So we have to be the change. We have to call in all the tribes. I love that word. I just keep on using it. Calling in all the tribes and all the villages to come together as one to be the change that is necessary to secure a future for the generation that is behind me. That is my thing. So Hope, no problem. When you get ready, Hope, I'm telling you, I'll be on your bandwagon. It has to be a change.
We do know the fight has to happen now, and that's why there are so many of us, much all of our time. I'm going to ask y'all to give me really brief messages. I would love for you to tell me, Hope and Elder Antionettea, what is one thing that you would love to tell your younger self?
Continue to run your own race. I know it seems that everybody is going a lot faster than you and getting places quicker, but going at your own pace ultimately pays off in a way that you'll never expect. So keep doing it as you have been.
That was me.
Perseverance. Perseverance. Do not give up. Even if you've been set back 4 or 5 feet, go forward. Like Hope said, don't give up. Perseverance, determination. And we are going to accomplish all what we set out to do. We have faith. We're going to unify, and we're going to accomplish our goals. Whether you like it or not, we're going to accomplish our goals. And we're going to ensure that our communities are safe. That's really important to me because I have a heavy immigrant population where I'm at. And that's what I need to keep on fighting for. I need to keep on fighting for the children and my sisters that, even our Haitian population that is being targeted. And it's just sad that what's happening, but I'm not giving up and I'll keep on fighting. If they call and tell me, we need you to go to Albany. We need you to be at City Hall. We need you to be at Governor Hochul's office. Yes, I'm coming.
Wonderful.
I'm coming. So.
Well, we are grateful for that. You please keep showing up. I am going to wrap us up here. I want you all to know, thank you so much for joining AIDS United and the Melanated Movement portfolio with my co-hosts today, Hope, Giselle, and Elder Antionettea. We appreciate you. And just know this, if you have questions, you can always reach out directly to AIDS United. You can reach out to the program officer who is over the Melanated Engagement portfolio, Melanated Movement. Her name is Carly Gray. For any questions related to access funding or wanting to keep up with Melanated Movement, wanting to collaborate, because a lot of you out there who are paying attention, you yourself are experts in many ways. So please do not hesitate to send an email over to cgray@aidsunited.org. And of course, if you're not already following AIDS United, what are you doing? Make sure you follow them. Make sure that you're paying attention, because at the end of the day, this is an organization who is truly committed to one thing and one thing only, your health and well-being. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dr. Christy Perez. This was The Art of Becoming, and it was my pleasure to be here with you.